So we had the demand shock. That was what I was saying. We had the demand shock. But the thing is, when you have a demand shock, price rises. And that's what we're seeing. But now we're about to have a supply shock. Guaranteed. It doesn't really matter what day it is. It's happening. But here's the problem. That's only 6 times current production if the miners actually sell. But a couple of the miners actually were buying. Not only were they not selling to pay their electric bills, they were actually in the market buying.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful, awesome day today. Now, we have a lot to go over. Normally, I don't make this many frequent videos back to back, but I just saw something that absolutely blew my mind, and I have to share this with you right now. Before we get into that, I just want to kind of go over what's been happening in the market. So this is the parallel channel that we've been bouncing around in pretty much since back here, around 37,000. You can see, we bounce up and down. We did have a little bit, obviously, of a bear trap right here. Now, we had talked about the fact that we were looking at the heart line right here, and you could see that it usually tends to act as an area of interest, and you could see that we were saying there could have been a potential rejection there. We did not get the rejection. In fact, Bitcoin tried to push up to some of these higher levels. We had this wick back here that got up to around 48,000. Now, we're still not above this 49,000 high, or you could even say maybe that psychological area of 50,000, right? And we do have to break out of this upwards channel, but the fact that we did have a daily retest so far on this heart line is definitely showing me that the bears are desperately, maybe not even desperately, maybe aggressively trying to take control, and it looks like it might be working, right? The other thing to point out is if you look at BlackRock's ETF, at first, obviously, it didn't do very well in the beginning. A lot of it had to do with potential price discovery, Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, but as you can see right now, we're starting to curve up to the upside, and look at how these last 3 candles open. Look at these gaps in between them, right? Look at how that's just been going higher and higher, and we may be looking to even open higher come this week. We'll have to pull that up, but if you have a look at the stock market is hitting an all-time high. Now, yes, it's a little scary because, we may be hitting the top of this channel, right? That is something to pay attention to, but what could be signaling that we have a bit of a risk-on environment is that we did have the Dixie getting rejected at this area pretty much right around 104.6 as we had marked out for multiple months on this channel, right? And obviously S&P specifically is, related generally to more of those tech plays. So that is just a small piece to the puzzle. But the biggest question again is this time actually different? Because something could be happening right now, specifically to the 4-year model. And I'm going to tell you guys, the last time that we saw what is happening today, right now, we saw Bitcoin hit a new all-time high in just 17 days. And guess what? The price was hovering right around the area that we're hovering at right now. So is history about to play out? Is it different? Well, we have 2 things. We have a double threat right now, right? What do we have? We have the demand shock, and we also have the supply shock, right? The halving, all these narratives playing in, which could actually create something that could escalate much quicker than we had anticipated. Now, of course, as I said, we have maintained an optimistically cautious approach, not bearish, just a little bit neutral. But if the bulls can maintain this structure, maintain this sort of momentum, which I'm going to talk about the momentum in a bit, it could be quite interesting. And it may actually signal, not trying to create FOMO, obviously, but time could be running out, or at least the time that we thought we had to accumulate at these levels could be shortened significantly. And yes, guys, I'm actually going to mention the fact that it may be time to start paying attention to the altcoins. So we're going to get into all that today. If that sounds good to you, you know what to do. If you're not subscribed, definitely consider it. Obviously, if you are trading over on Apex, guys, they are doing a 15,000 ES Apex token giveaway. This is for anyone who wants to get involved. Obviously, it is dependent on your trading. And if you are over on Levex, again, they're still offering that $5,000 bonus. Plus, if you use them, they're going to give you 10% fees back for life, okay? So check that out. All that is below in the description. You do have to use those links in order to get those deals. But this is a tweet that I put over on X. And I said, could it possibly be that this time is actually different? If I saw this chart right here, which I'm going to get into in a minute, and I had zero exposure to Bitcoin, I would be shaking in my boots right now. Get off zero. But before I get into that, there is one video that I want to play today. And that is from Mark Yusko. He was over on Blockworks Macro, and he was discussing the difference of this time and why, it's a meme, right? This time is different. But when you look at what is in play right now, the typical fundamentals, the typical 4-year cycles, combined with what we have right now, being the new demand, the new supply crunch, things could get a lot crazier, a lot faster than most are anticipating.
So we had the demand shock. That was what I was saying. We had the demand shock, right? We got the approval of these things, so the average person can now start buying. It's now a 1%, actually 1 to 3% allocation in the Fidelity broad portfolio. So they have a portfolio, they have an ETF that is all their other ETFs allocated based on their strategic view. And they have a 1 to 3% weighting and a 1% position in FBTC. But the thing is, when you have a demand shock, price rises. And that's what we're seeing. But now we're about to have a supply shock. And that supply shock, guaranteed, whether it's 417, 418, people are wishing it's 420. It doesn't really matter what day it is. It's happening. And we're going to go from 900 a day to 450 a day. And at the amount of inflows, that's happening right now, we're buying 3 times the current production. That'll turn to 6 times the current production. But here's the problem. That's only 6 times current production if the miners actually sell. But a couple of the miners actually were buying. I mean, literally, not only were they not selling to pay their electric bills, they were actually in the market buying. Now, that can't happen forever, but that's just a speculative move, people adding to their treasury because they anticipate this move. And, the other thing that doesn't get enough conversation is this idea of treasuries, right? You have MicroStrategy, clearly the biggest part of his treasury. He's basically turned himself into a Bitcoin bank. But other companies have quietly added to, Morgan Creek has Bitcoin on our balance sheet. Now, we're not like Sailor, but we have it. And it's funny, we're doing year-end reviews, and my COO is like, should we be rebalancing, taking some profits? I'm like, no, we suffered through the down. We're definitely not rebalancing here. In fact, I might take my profits this year and roll them in. So anyway, that's happening. Yeah. And we're not the only one.
So this chart from CryptoCon, we did share 3 charts in the last video. This one is a little bit different. By the way, if you don't follow CryptoCon over on X, I recommend it. Great analysis. I really appreciate their contributions. But you can see right here in this chart, unlike the halving cycle theory, the alternate theory says there is a possibility that Bitcoin cycles are shifting left by 6 months. Okay? So before we continue, that means that they are getting not necessarily, I guess you could say shorter, not necessarily, but it seems like we are reaching these levels about 6 months earlier each time, right? So this would call for a top around May of 2025, which generally speaking, we would normally see the top around something like November, December. But this could come sooner. As price nears yearly highs, more and more people are convinced that this time is different. Price, for now, continues to side with the original halving cycle theory, but we do have to look at the alternate theory that could suggest that new all-time highs are sooner than expected. According to this theory, new all-time highs would appear after May of 2024 instead of November of 2024. Now, I just want you to let that sink in. And this is what we're talking about here. We've never seen a new all-time high before the Bitcoin halving. And the Bitcoin halving is sometime in April, right? So maybe it's possible that we still don't see an all-time high before the halving, but we generally don't see one immediately after the halving either. And if we look at this cycle, it suggests that this would mark a monumental shift for Bitcoin, breaking firm cycles that have existed since it was created. Now, of course, until we see this price action, we have to just maybe assume that we're going to follow the same trajectory, but we do have to admit that this time is different. That's sort of the theme of today's video, right? Because we have the ETFs, because we have the door open now to all of the boomers, the institutions, the family offices, the pension funds, all of the people that normally would be on the sideline that are not going to touch something like Coinbase or Gemini, right? They don't trust that, especially after seeing what happened with FTX. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Now, just to break this down, and yes, we're going to do a little bit more TA than usual today, but look at this, guys, right here on October 3rd of 2021, okay? And this is, if I zoom out, you can see why I'm picking this area. This is the last time that Bitcoin was actually up around this area. I mean, I guess you could say right here, we did have a bit of a, right here, we did have a bit of a fake out. This was around March of 2022. And before I get into this, you could see why this area is of such significance, right? It acted as a lot of support here, slight resistance here, major resistance here, resistance again on the ETF news. And currently, this is exactly where we are today. But what exactly is the significance of this level? Well, check this out, guys. If we zoom in over here, the last time that Bitcoin crossed this level, now these candles, these are daily candles. Each one of these candles represents a day. From the time that Bitcoin broke above 48,000, the last time that we were there, October 3rd of 2021, it took Bitcoin only 17 days to basically pump 40% to the all-time high. So you could see how fast this rallied. 17 days from the exact level that we're at today, it took Bitcoin to break the previous all-time high. And this pushed Bitcoin all the way up to around that $66,000 area. And then we consolidated. And if you want to go even farther, after that, it was about 38 days until we got to the absolute all-time high. So that's just over a month. So if we were to have historical price trends, not historical 4-year cycles play out the same way, that would assume, or that could suggest that we could see a new all-time high in 17 days, or if you want to go by this, the absolute high in about 40 days from now. Now, I think that we would still go a lot higher than this. So if you have a look, what a lot of people, including myself, we had spoke about this. I know Kevin Svensson, he's been talking about it a lot as well. But you could see that once we had this sort of cluster down here where we had this multiple support area, Bitcoin never came down to any of these previous levels, right? We had this long-term trend right here, and then we have this trend as well, and then the new blue trend that set in after that bottom. Well, Bitcoin hasn't even come close to touching. We had this attempt down here where we had this crash, we had the bump and run, and then Bitcoin started putting in a bit of a parabolic curve. Now, do I think that this parabolic curve is going to maintain? That I don't know, because this is a little excessive, a little bit early. You know, even if we did break down something like this, you know, and people would say, well, that, you know, you can't really move it, but you could always move, you know, you can move the parabolic curve, obviously. But my point that I'm trying to make is that it could accelerate a lot quicker, because this is something that I don't usually speak about on the channel. But if we have a look at the Lux Algo matrix oscillator, okay? A little bit of a complex thing, but I'll break it down for you right here. Ultimately, it uses very similar waves, the same way, you know, if you're using Market Cipher, you're looking at money flow. It's kind of a combination of RSI and all that, as well as showing these shifts right here. Now, what you can see if you zoom in, you are seeing this shift moving way to the upside. Now, yes, although we did get one of these little blue X's, which could suggest that maybe we've reached a temporary peak, but you could see even right here when we got this X back in April 3rd, yes, price declined a little bit, right? We went down, it was about 20%, but that was only over the course of about 8 weeks. And then we're setting up that base. But usually when you have these trends move into the blue, they tend to stay there for a long time. And if we have a look at this structure change right here, what this is suggesting, and you can check the data, it's right over in the bottom, this is suggesting that the strength of this trend is around, they say, 81.9%. So that's saying that there's an 81.9% based on history that this trend will remain. And the trend, which is currently in the blue right now, is suggesting continuation to the upside. Now, keep in mind, again, this trend, we started the blue, we did go sideways, right? We went sideways for several weeks here, but we ended up ultimately putting in a higher high. So if you're looking at these different theories and you're considering the fundamentals and you're considering that there's about, let's just say, an 82% chance that this trend is going to continue to the upside, and we have seen the cycles moving about 6 months in advance each time that we have it, plus we have the potential supply and demand shocks, it is one of those situations in which you may want to consider getting off zero, right? And that's exactly what I said back here in the original tweet. I said, obviously if you saw this chart and had zero exposure, I'd be shaking in my boots right now. And that's exactly why I said that, because, it's one thing to be optimistically cautious, which is what we are right now, but it's another thing to just completely be sitting on the sideline and assuming that we have to go back down to these $30,000, $35,000 levels just because we've seen it happen before. I'm not going to rule that out because technically, if we come into the chart right here, this is a beautiful, beautiful weekly candle. And this definitely puts it in the bulls territory, especially breaking out of this consolidation range that we've been in for quite a long time. But again, obviously, if you just want to make it nice and simple, we have this top right here. We have this wick top. And that means that Bitcoin still has to get above that $49,000 area because that also represented the 0.618 Fibonacci. And as we had talked about in previous cycles, this is why we said, just be careful, at those levels. And we did have that pullback is because each time we've sort of come up to that level, we have had those pullbacks, right? Every time we get up to that level, we have had those pullbacks. Here, even zooming in, we got to the level, we had a little pullback. So it's been 1, 2, 3. And then on the 4th week, it was a pump. So yeah, we did have technically a month of that price movement. But if we do break and hold above that, which is currently, according to this chart, it's sitting at around $47,600, then you may be looking for that parabolic advance, and it could be possible that this time is in fact actually different, right? The thing is if we look at the weekly, we didn't even come down into this band of the EMA ribbon, and obviously, going a little bit lower on the daily, we did dip below it, but one of the strongest supports, as you could see, if I go back far enough, well, you got to get out of a bear trend here, you got to get into a bull trend, tends to be this purple 89. It's like this lavender move right here. But you can see once you start getting into these higher, more sort of, extreme price moves, you don't even get down that low. So, having a look right here, if we have to go off of that level is sitting at around 43,700. So that would suggest that at this point on the daily, you're probably not going to see Bitcoin go much lower than that. And on the weekly, of course, the larger time frames show us that maybe you may get a retest at around that $39,000 area. But, sitting and waiting for that confirmation, I just can't necessarily suggest that would be the best play, not financial advice, because if this thing does start moving, what would you do? If in 17 days from now or 20 days from now, Bitcoin was back above 70,000. Not crazy. It's happened. It happened before, right? So that's just something I wanted to bring up to you guys. Also just speaking fundamentally at not only the development, but you have MicroStrategy even coming out and announcing plans to be the world's first Bitcoin development company.
Well, as you can see, and as we've said, we view ourselves as a Bitcoin development company. And what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to do everything we can to grow the Bitcoin network. We're going to do everything we can to acquire more Bitcoin, and we're going to do everything we can to benefit our shareholders and do this in a creative fashion. And when we consider our options and our unique strengths, we boil it down to 4. First of all, our company structure. We are unique as an operating company. And that means we have active control over our capital structure. And we can do things operating companies can do that trust companies like, say, spot Bitcoin ETPs, they can't do. And that's a wide range of things. One of those things is we can develop software. And of course, we'll continue to develop business intelligence software. There's extraordinary opportunities to blend artificial intelligence with our traditional business intelligence customer base. It's great value. And we will also continue to pursue Bitcoin development opportunities. So develop applications that create value from the Bitcoin network, either working on the base layer or working with L2 protocols like the Lightning protocol in order to do this. And we're very enthusiastic about that. And as we develop this software, we will we will release it either to the benefit of the Bitcoin network, or we'll release it to generate more revenue and work to generate more cash flow so that we can buy more Bitcoin.
And I know we generally don't speak about a lot of altcoins on this channel. In fact, I don't think I've really spoken about many altcoins in the past year, because the year of 2023 for me, that was the year of Bitcoin. It was the year of loading up on Bitcoin, getting ready for the ETFs, getting ready for the institutions, trying to get to that one Bitcoin. I mean, don't forget, there was a time last year in which you could have got one Bitcoin for $16,000, $17,000, even a couple exchanges, $15,500, right? Now, of course, who buys the absolute bottom? Nobody generally buys the absolute bottom, but it was an excellent opportunity to start accumulating that Bitcoin position, which I still firmly believe, my personal opinion, should be the majority holding of your portfolio. How much? That's up to you. I don't know. Some people 90, some people 70, whatever, but I definitely wouldn't hold more than half not Bitcoin. I would at least have 51% Bitcoin, because that is going to definitely be that longevity play, right? So you have wealth generation, which is making those quick money. But what happens with a lot of these, these people that win the lotto, right? They know how to generate the wealth, or they get lucky, whatever, but they get all this money and then they end up broke anyway. It's because they don't understand that wealth preservation. Bitcoin is like the crypto bank, right? Bitcoin is like wealth preservation. That's where you kind of hold your money for long-term set and forget it. But what we are seeing over here on the total crypto cap, excluding Bitcoin, is on this Gaussian channel. Let me see if I can get it. There we go. So you can see it a little bit better here. Well, we only have so much data going back to here. But ultimately, once we flip out of these red zones, which are the ultimate accumulation area, and you get that confirmation tap on the Gaussian channel, we tend to stay above it for quite a long time. And keep in mind, this is altcoins, not Bitcoin. You can see the same thing right here. Well, what do you guys think we're doing right now? We're breaking out of that channel, and we're starting the very, very, very beginning of the green. So again, a lot of people with altcoins, some of the comments I get in the channel is like, well, why are you waiting until the altcoins have moved out of the channel into the green to start accumulating? Why didn't you start buying earlier? Guys, at the end of the day, stop trying to time bottoms and tops. It's a ridiculous game to play like that. If you miss the first 20 to 30%, who cares? You can get the next 70 to 90%, right? And within those percentages, you can get 10x's. I've seen 1,000x's happen, right? And I believe right now would be that opportunity. If you are looking into altcoins that you believe in, you're not just being speculative, you believe in them and you could hold them, for at least the next 6 to 8 months, then I think that now is a good opportunity to accumulate. One project, that Danilo Carlucci had pointed out, which we had mentioned over on Twitter, if you had been following me on X, was this project Tada, which had been basically in incubation for about 2.5 years. This coin, this token opened and it's already up 5x. And this is literally, just on the launch. So you could see how quick these prices could actually start moving for some of these altcoins. Now, again, not financial advice, but a disclaimer here. If I speak about an altcoin on the channel, I don't care whether you buy it or not. I'm not into shilling. The reason I'm hesitant is because I mentioned something and then people go all in. I say allocate 1% to maybe 3 to 5% if you're feeling risky, and somebody bets the farm against it, right? And that's not what you want, because the reality is with a lot of these altcoins, you get into 10 of them, 8 of them fail, right? But the 2 that do well, maybe one gives you a 5x or whatever, maybe a break even on the losses, but then the one, that's the 100x or 1000x, right? So that's why with the altcoins, you don't want to overdo it. You want to keep the massive portion of your portfolio in Bitcoin, the largest amount. I guess Ethereum if you want, whatever. For me, it's mostly just Bitcoin. And then, little speculations here and there. But if you guys do want to follow me over on X, I do kind of talk about some more stuff over there. But I just wanted to bring this video to you guys because when you really look at what's going on right now, yes, of course, we still have that possibility that the 4-year cycle is intact. We still have the possibility that, we do get rejected at the 0.618, which is why I said just be a little bit careful right now. But we are at the point where if we start putting in some of these levels, like we break above 49, we hold that for a week. Well, guys, you've seen what happened. I mean, we literally were able to get all the way back to the all-time high within 38 days and break the previous in 17. Things can happen a lot faster than you can even imagine. So that's it for me today, guys. I just wanted to bring you this video. Not trying to create FOMO, just trying to let you know, those periods of accumulation, that slow grind that we had all in the beginning of last year, all of those opportunities to buy Bitcoin, from 16,000 to 25,000, even up to 30,000, they're probably not going to come anymore. And I believe that any dip, even if we have a 20% dip from these levels, I believe that this is the time to be paying attention position to be accumulating. You know, if you're working a job, you know, educate yourself, stay up late, maybe don't spend money, you know, on dinner or stuff like that. Stay home, focus, and get your game on, because right now is when we're going to see those millionaires get minted in the next year, year and a half. So just wanted to bring that to you guys. I love you. You're awesome. Thank you for everyone that supported, you know, the channel over all this time. If you do appreciate these videos, obviously a like, a subscribe, a comment helps to push, you know, the video to the algorithm to let other people know. And that's it for me, guys. So yes, until next time, I love you. You're awesome. If you do want to trade, check out Apex tutorial right here. They do have that bonus going on, and LevX as well. There's all different kinds of things. Coin Catch, they got a lot going on as well. You know, see which one you like. Obviously, don't keep your coins on exchange if you're not trading for obvious reasons. You know, we never know, even if it's an exchange I'm talking about. I don't know, guys. Anything can happen. You never know, something gets hacked or something like that. But I love you. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.